Welcome to Brew Crime, the podcast where we drink brews and talk crime, conspiracies, or whatever catches our attention. This is JT and my co-host,
Mike.
Mike. This is part two. This is part two to our Disasters in the Air series. Yes. Is it a series?
Yes, series.
Or
yes.
a duet?
I don't know.
Sure, whatever you want it to be.
Attention passengers. We might experience a little bit of turbulence, so please fasten your seatbelts. And also, the no smoking sign is still on.
Yes, and shall always be on forevermore, so they should just eliminate it and reduce our tickets.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, yeah, there's going to be turbulence, and it's primarily white-collar crime here. So,
And there's also some turbulence whenever you're flying, because there's some real turds on flights these days.
It's very true. It's very true. They rarely empty the shitter, so it's...
Well, no, but I just mean more they allow really shitty people on flights.
I know. Oh my gosh, so it's been a total of like 5 minutes since we recorded the last episode.
Yes,
so has anything
yes.
happened to you over that period of time?
No, I took a couple more sips of my beer.
Yeah.
I'm going to do another one right now.
I will say this, you did go on a pretty awesome vacation for a couple of days, and I was very, very jealous.
Yes, me and my wife went for our anniversary to what is called the Sunshine Coast here, which is mainland, but it still takes a sort of 35-minute ferry ride, and drove an hour and a half up the highway to the other end where there's another ferry further up the coast. We didn't cross, though, and we stayed in one of those geodetic domes.
It was so cool.
It was so cool, like a queen-size bed inside like a glamping tent, basically.
It's perfect.
Yeah, although I have to admit, I would say the name of the resort, except that the dome was amazing, 5 stars. The washroom building that we had to share, 1.5 stars.
Ew, no thanks.
Yes, the whole place is on septic, so there's issues, but urinal backing up, and you had to pay for hot water in the showers, even though you'd spent $170 a night in the dome. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Dome wonderful. Bathrooms fucking pathetic.
Yep, work on that, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, the bottom line to the story is if you ever want to feel just absolutely sarcastically great about where you live, just ask Mike for some photos.
Yeah.
That's what that comes down to.
Yeah, there definitely is nice scenery here. Definitely.
I mean, you can be a very prideful American and think where you are is beautiful and you're looking out on a prairie. Go ahead and text Mike and tell me that it's not better. So, and if you say it's not better, you're lying.
It's just different, JT.
Yeah, but I mean, just different even sounds better than prairie. So, you know what I mean?
No comment.
All right. Yeah, right. I am bringing a combination of a couple of air crashes and white-collar crime. So,
ooh,
this case is called When Values and Honesty Go Boeing, Boeing, Boeing Out the Window.
Oh, damn.
You know, what are you going to do?
There was a trampoline involved, huh?
There was, yes. This was terrible, yes. So, before I get started, I'm going to talk about my lovely beer pairing, which is still in a can because I'm just not that good as Mike. It is from Stone Brewing, which is in both California and right by me, Richmond, Virginia.
We just found out it's less than half an hour drive and he hasn't been.
Yep. I didn't say I was good at this job. So Stone, this hazy double IPA is called Fear Movie Lions, which there's literally there's a period after every single word. But the best part about it is that the abbreviation is FML, which is pretty much
what
how
a lot of people said on my case, and probably what's going to happen on your story about air disasters.
A lot of VPs and such. So yeah, it's about an 8.5% alcohol per volume, and it uses some Laurel and Mosaic hops, and it's supposed to be tropical punch berry peach flavor notes.
Oh, geez, that sounds fucking delicious.
Here it is. It's also my third, so.
Is it fucking delish?
Well, I'm smelling it first. I already forgot what the flavor notes were. I guess I could See, this is me. I just tell you what the flavor notes are, and then I smell it, and I say, yeah, maybe it does or doesn't. So,
How does it taste? Does it taste good?
oh, it tastes great.
Yeah, there we
It's
go.
sweet. It's not too sweet.
Sounds like it's going to be really fruity.
Yeah, it is, but it's like the one that you did in the last episode. It's not too much so.
Yeah,
it's
it's
still
not
very much an
sweet, but it's
IPA.
fruity.
Right, it's very much an IPA, but it's like this is almost like a gateway IPA, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like
Well,
for
it's
somebody who
gonna
doesn't
be-
think they'd like it.
It's going to be a New England or East Coast IPA instead of a West Coast IPA. So it's
Right.
probably going to be fairly hazy, I'm guessing. Especially, it's probably not going to be very bitter.
I can't see through the can, so I'm going to call it hazy.
Yeah. But it's probably not going to be very bitter, I'm guessing. It's more like juicy, fruity,
Yep.
maybe a little hint of grain, maybe not.
Yep.
Yeah, it's easy drinking. What's
if
the
you
ABV
wanna-
on that?
8.5.
Oh, snap. That's even higher than mine.
Yeah, it's truly, even with it being high, I would say, if you have somebody, a significant other or a friend that's not a big fan of IPAs, this really could be a gateway IPA. It's a nice in the middle.
A lot of people that say they don't like IPA don't like bitterness.
Right.
And if you've got a properly made New England style IPA, it's not going to be bitter. It's going
Right.
to be slightly sweet. It's going to just be fruity. Going to be hazy. Got to have a little more body to it. It's usually easy drinking.
My point stands, damn it, and it's supported by Mike's Foundation, and he knows how to build a foundation.
And I've never had that beer.
No.
That might even be Virginia exclusive beer. I'm not sure. Because they have some beers that are only made in Virginia and some that are only made in California and vice versa, right?
Might. I will say this, you should definitely look for it. It was indeed in a variety pack for those of you. It was a 12-can variety pack.
Nice.
I think it might also come in the bottle version of that variety pack. I just couldn't find it. But yeah, Fear Movie Lions FML Hazy Double IPA from Stone Brewing. It's very good. We're going to hop right on into this. There's kind of a lot of things that my English teachers taught me over the years, Mike, and one of the biggest things was to not always use a quote to open up a paper script or, whatever. But damn it, I'm an adult and I can do what I want, so respect my authority.
Who killed Kenny?
Right. You bastards! What I mean to say is, this is a nice way to start it off. So, acting assistant attorney at the time, General David P. Burns of the... I just read that out loud for the first time, P. Burns.
Keyburns.
There it is. General David P. Burns of the Justice Department's Criminal Division said this: the tragic crashes of Lion Air Flight 610 and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 exposed fraudulent and deceptive conduct by employees of one of the world's leading commercial airplane manufacturers. Boeing's employees chose the path of profit over candor by concealing material information from the FAA concerning the operation of its 737 MAX airplane and engaging in an effort to cover up their deception. The misleading statements, half-truths, and omissions communicated by Boeing employees to the FAA impeded the government's ability to ensure the safety of the flying public.
That sounds like good things, for sure, of course.
First is scathing, but second, not surprising that the government would say it's not the FAA's fault.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
It's that private company's fault, but we'll still give you tax breaks.
Although it's probably both. In
Yes.
fairness, it's both.
We will find that out. So now, we've got kind of a taste of what's coming, and you can just assume it's not going to be good. So we're going to
No.
Tarantino this, right? We're going to take it back.
Tastes like burnt rubber and like melting plastic, I'm sure.
It tastes like West Coast IPA. No.
No, I love West Coast IPA.
I do too.
It
but
tastes like old English malt liquor.
Jesus. Oh, my God.
Edward 40 Hands.
Colt
Colt
40.
45.
Yeah. All right, so today is about Boeing, and it's not just Boeing. Today's about the 737 MAX groundings, and we're going to talk a little bit about Boeing and its history, what led up to the two tragedies mentioned in the quote, and how it was or was not handled by Boeing and the FAA, and more. So, let's buckle up. Let's put your tray tables up, your seat in the upright, locked position, and let's go to work.
Lean forward and kiss your ass goodbye.
In case of, yes.
And that's what I'm talking about with the CEOs, hopefully.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah. This guy didn't make it through this. So Boeing is a multinational corporation, and it involves design, manufacture. It sells airplanes, rotorcraft, rockets, satellites, telecommunications equipment, and missiles worldwide. And that, to me, just that list alone is nefarious. If you know what I'm saying, like, and that's not a good thing to be. It is not a good thing to be nefarious. So, they also do leasing and blah 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 business stuff.
Blah, 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 blah,
Right?
blah, blah, blah.
So they're the largest global aerospace manufacturer, and they're the third largest contractor. They're the largest exporter from the U.S. by dollar revenue. They started in 1916 by William E. Boeing, who was an American lumber industrialist, and it opened in Seattle, Washington. So he went from wood to steel. His wife said it's not hard enough. In 1960...
I'm sorry, but it went from wood to steel. It got a little more rigid and it wasn't hard enough.
Yeah, buddy. Over the years, they bought a series of businesses, taking over and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And in 1960, right, this is how this works.
Engorged.
Right? Yeah. Really veiny. In 1960, they bought Virgil Aircraft and moved into helicopters.
Veiny Virgil.
Veiny Virgil. That's what his nickname was, Veiny Virgil. Around a year later, they moved into outer space, marine craft, agriculture, energy production, and transportation systems. In short, they took over.
Yeah, no shit.
I'm the Monopoly guy. Which is funny because the CEO at this time looked like the Monopoly guy.
Nice.
In 1995, they worked with organizations in Russia, Ukraine, and other locations to create a group called Sea Launch. The name confuses me because it's about launching satellites into orbit from floating platforms. You know what? On second thought,
Sea Launch.
that sounds like it makes sense and it's kind of cool.
I had to speak it out loud first, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty
Kind of like
sure.
SpaceX, isn't it?
Yeah. You know what? Either way, it's the beginning of a 007 plot, and I don't like it. So, well, now we got Mike. Now we got to pay for it. So that's coming out of your salary of $0. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
So they continued to, buy shit and merge, and I'm sure it's legal and some kind of bullshittery that was pulled by many of their lawyers, which I might add they're going to need in a bit here. Of course, they really didn't stay out of trouble. In 2006, it was found that their Santa Susana field laboratory contaminated the area with radioactive waste. Not a huge thing. So this was 2006. They finally agreed to clean it up in 2017, and there are still studies and lawsuits happening about that, because of course there are. Just like the fact that it took 11 years for them to do even remotely the right thing with, the cheapest contractor they could find.
Yeah. Corporations, they're there to help you. Yeah.
They're there to help you die.
Die.
Stay poor. So overall, they've been beyond profitable, despite laying off thousands as a, quote, result of the pandemic, etc. And due to the pandemic, all right, you ready for this?
Nope.
Because of the pandemic, which tells you that, this should be less money, right? Because the pandemic. Their revenue was $11.8 billion.
Wow.
They still laid people off.
Of course they did, because it could have been 14.
Right, and the very next year, in 2021, because of the higher sales, their revenue went to $17 billion.
Arrest them all and put them in jail.
Yep. On Boeing's website, it says, quote, Boeing develops... hold on, let me get my professional voice on. Boeing develops, manufactures, and services commercial airplanes, defense products, and space systems for customers in more than 150 countries. Boeing's diverse team is committed to innovation for the future, leading with sustainability, and cultivating a culture based on the company's core values of safety, quality, and integrity.
Jinx. My fingers were crossed.
Yeah, right. Those last things, safety, quality, and integrity, are subjective, I guess.
Yes, yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good Boeing planes in the air, just not one we're talking about.
Yeah, no. So before I really get into this, I know that I'm kind of bad-mouthing Boeing a lot. And the reality is, for decades, almost a century, they had a huge tradition of quality and safety. And there was a phrase that I heard in the documentary Downfall that I watched by Rory Kennedy, and it was produced by Brian Grazer and Ron Howard. It said, if it ain't Boeing...
Ron Howard?
The Ron Howard.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's very good if you have not seen it. It's called Downfall. And I'm not talking about the Adolf Hitler Last Days movie. It's called Downfall. It's fantastic. It's good. It's on Netflix. Check it out. So, there was a phrase that I heard in the documentary Downfall by Rory Kennedy. It's produced by Brian Grazer and Ron Howard, the Ron Howard, that said, if it ain't Boeing, I'm not going. And, which is clever. In reality, they have over 10,000 planes at any given time in 150 countries at work. So, they truly had the public's, businesses, whatever's trust, right?
Yep.
And I think that this was why it was such a big deal. The overall belief in Boeing was incredible, and well, then this happened. So
yeah, no shit, right?
So we're going to hop into this. We're going to talk about the first plane crash here. And this was the crash of Lion Air Flight 610. So that's a Boeing 737 MAX 8 plane. It was scheduled to fly from Soekarno-Hatta International Airport, Jakarta, to Dabati Amir Airport, Pangkal Pinang in Indonesia. Whew, gesundheit to myself.
Yeah, not hard at all to say. Right?
No, not at all. October, especially after 3 beers. October 29th, 2018. The plane taxied, it took off, and 13 minutes later it crashed into the Java Sea. And there were 189 souls on board, and it was the highest death toll of any accident or incident involving the entire Boeing 737 series. They were confused because the weather was good. They were close to the airport, so what happened? Debris and remains were spread over 280 kilometers or 150 nautical miles, which is a lot.
It's a big area, yeah.
It wasn't until November 1st that the flight recorder was found. And a little information about black boxes. There's actually 2 on an airplane. This is for folks that aren't sure or don't know about it. I actually didn't know about it until I read it. One's the flight data recorder, and the second one's the cockpit communication recorder, and they're not black, but usually orange.
Yes, and to throw back to my episode last week, I forgot to mention this, there was no such thing as a black box in the 50s.
God, I wonder when they were put in.
I don't
But,
know.
I mean, they didn't even have radar or, consistent
Autopilot or anything.
Yeah, communication, so
Yeah,
I don't know why I expected them to have that.
yeah, no shit.
Almost immediately, the media and even Boeing went on to blame everything but the plane. It couldn't possibly be the plane, right?
Of course not.
They blamed the country the airline came from, and then they went after the pilots. And during their, well, I can only call it a bit of a smear campaign. There were individuals that said, quote, an American pilot would have never gotten in this situation.
Fuck them.
I know. So what they didn't realize was that the pilot finished his training in the USA. So,
there you go.
Shut the fuck up,
Yeah, exactly.
you xenophobic bastards. What they found was that there was a faulty angle attack data sensor on the front of the plane. But there's no way it was a single damaged sensor that did it.
No.
It is important to say with the sensor completely effed, there's a stick shaker that shakes the controls, a master caution light, an altitude incorrectly reading. Literally, in this cockpit, it was like the movies where everything was going off and making noise.
No, I believe it. Yeah.
Like, what the fuck do I hit first, right? So, the sensor was Dunsky's, which set off the MCAS. So,
I think they needed an Alt-Control-Delete there.
no, hard reset.
Reboot.
Jesus. So the sensor was done, so it set off the MCAS. And what did every pilot and everyone else say? What the fuck is an MCAS? Not just the public, but the pilots.
That's scary when the pilots don't know.
Yeah, so before we talk about that, there was an investigation released October 25th, 2019, and they came out with 9 factors that contributed to the accident itself, based on chronological order. So these are pulled from the findings of the official report. So it's a bit technical, but I've boiled down each one real quick to kind of get each finding. If I boil down, I mean they're each a sentence. I know you're surprised.
Yeah.
So the first one was during the design and certification of the new generation Boeing MAX, there were assumptions about how the crew would respond to malfunctions. These assumptions proved to be incorrect.
Never.
MCAS's assumptions about flight crew response led them to believe that its reliance on a single sensor was deemed appropriate. So there wasn't a backup, it was just one. MCAS is designed to rely on a single angle of attack sensor, making it vulnerable and erroneous input from that sensor. So,
That's
obviously,
scary.
something bad happens, boom, it's jacked. The absence of guidance on MCAS made it difficult for flight crews to respond properly to uncommanded MCAS. Because they didn't know about it. It was just there.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The angle of
Let's
attack...
put something in there that they don't tell anyone about. Yeah,
Right.
That's a good idea.
So the angle of attack disagree alert was not correctly enabled during the MAX development. Because of that, it did not appear during flight with a miscalibrated attack of angle sensor, and it couldn't be documented by the flight crew, and it was unable to help maintenance identify the sensor because nobody fucking knew about it. It
Fuck,
wasn't
I didn't even know
enabled.
about this. Wow.
So the replacement attack of angle sensor was miscalibrated during an earlier repair, and it wasn't detected.
Wow.
Second to last, there was a lack of documentation in the flight and maintenance log. That meant information was not available to maintenance crew in Jakarta, nor available to the accident crew.
Jeez.
Finally, multiple alerts, repetitive MCAS activations, and distractions related to numerous communications were not able to be effectively managed. This was caused by the difficulty of the situation and performance in manual handling, I'm going to give you some abbreviations I have no idea about, NNC execution, and flight crew communication, leading to ineffective application and workload management. These performances had previously been identified during training and reappeared during the accident flight. So,
Now in English. No.
yeah, basically, that means there were a bunch of alerts, there was a lot of noise, and that
Yeah.
led to them being ineffectively able to kind of realize what was going on. But,
Yeah.
again, we just read those other 8, which says, of course they didn't because they were never told.
Yeah. Here's
So-
the surprise light.
Yeah, haha, that's exactly what I want on my flights. Surprise! Yeah. So back to the question at hand, what the fuck is an MCAS? So MCAS stands for Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. So what that means is the system was programmed and designed to push the nose down. It was designed to work in the background based on the angle of attack a pilot takes while climbing. So if the pilot climbs too steep to avoid the whole stalling thing, the angle of attack sensor would turn, and once it hits a certain level, the MCAS would go into effect to automatically bring the nose down so that
Okay,
it chilled
yeah.
out. So, in theory, that's great. Cool,
Mhm.
right?
Definitely in
be-
theory.
Right, and it'd be well and good, but it malfunctioned. And not only did it malfunction, it malfunctioned repeatedly, activating the MCAS over and over and over. But it wasn't even in the manual. Where
But
was
wait,
it?
there's more.
I know. Where was it? It was in the abbreviation section and nowhere else. It wasn't defined, detailed, described. Literally on one column it said MCAS, and the other one it said Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System. That was it.
Jesus. You'd think
Now-
with a new system, there'd be a chapter on it.
Right? So I will say this, in fairness to Boeing, which don't take me to task for because they don't deserve that much.
Yeah,
In 2016, the FAA approved Boeing's request to remove references to the MCAS system from the flight manual. So Boeing said, we don't want to put this in there. FAA said, cool, take it out.
Yeah. Why? I know
Mm-hmm. So we'll
you
talk
don't
about-
know why.
Yeah, I know. So we'll talk about kind of MCAS behavior. It's a stabilizing program. It was first used on a Boeing KC-46 Pegasus military air tanker to balance fuel loads. Despite that, the system allowed pilots to assume control of the aircraft, so
Yeah.
you could take over. It was intended to mimic the flight behavior of the previous generation of the series, but it didn't. MCAS basically engages the horizontal stabilizer, which then allows your nose to come down, and it's the important part. I kind of explained it earlier as an anti-stall system, but it's not. The CEO, Dennis Muhlenberg, who is the Monopoly guy, said, quote, "It's a system that's designed to provide handling qualities for the pilot that meet the pilot's preferences. I would like to say that it did not meet our 4 pilots' preferences."
Doesn't sound like it.
No. So
So do not pass go.
Right.
Do not
so,
pay $200.
So what the fuck went wrong? MCAS triggered by angle of attack inputs, which read to the MCAS that the plane had pitched up quickly and far too much. So it did what it was designed to do, right? It activated the stabilizer to push down the nose. And then it stopped, and then it did it again and pushed down the nose. And then it stopped, and then it did it again and pushed down the nose. And each time that it stopped, in between the stop and reactivate, the pilots were literally fighting the plane to keep it, at the correct, at least leveled.
Yeah.
So pilots had difficulty controlling the plane, and MCAS had also disrupted the autopilot operations. Yay!
Just what you want, right? Autopilot's supposed to, be pretty foolproof.
Right? So watch out, Tesla. So,
Yeah, Tesla, the one that's crashed so many times.
I know. Fuck you, Elon. Take me off of Twitter. Okay. Sorry, you're being sued
Fuck
by
you,
them.
Elon, period. Yeah.
End of story. That is it.
Yeah.
So the Boeing response. So the first crash occurred on October 29th, and on November 6th, Boeing issued an operations manual bulletin in OMB. And it says this, quote, described a MAX-specific feature of the pitch trim system, warning that with, quote, erroneous AOA data, attack of angle data, the pitch trim system can trim the stabilizer nose down in increments lasting up to 10 seconds, which can be stopped and reversed with the use of an electric stabilizer trim switch, but may restart 5 seconds after. And then it instructed pilots to counteract it by running the runaway stabilizer and manual trim procedure. So, what they said was, it includes this, it might jack up, so do this, and you'll be fine, right? On November 7th, the FAA issues an emergency airworthiness directive to owners and operators requiring revising the aircraft flight manual, so fixing it. The FAA said, oh, fuck, delete those emails, first of all, but second off, fix this shit.
Sweep under rug, then change rug.
Right. But the dog still shit on the rug, so that's
no
problem, right?
Yeah. Well, no, the shit under the rug, so when you change rugs, it's still there.
You just drag it.
Yeah.
It's
Smear.
Smear. All the way to November 10th. So, as mentioned, Boeing finally referred to the MCAS for the first time on November 10th. The MCAS control law was just a few lines of software code. That's what it was. It was a few lines of software code.
Yeah.
And Boeing said, Boeing's response was, quote, crew didn't respond like they thought. They didn't turn it off.
How do you turn it off if you don't know about it?
Exactly.
Is Boeing Rockstar Games?
This is what it's feeling like, isn't it?
Release a horribly defective game and then slowly over 6 months fix it,
Right?
and then make it worth buying.
GTA, Cyberpunk, etc.
Yeah. The GTA trilogy on the Switch, which was unplayable when it was released.
Oh, I'm sure it was. So they said that, but did Boeing tell the pilots about it? No. They never informed, explained, trained them because and this is their reason. This is why they didn't tell the pilots. Quote, they didn't wish to overload them with information.
I would rather overload them with information that kept them from crashing their goddamn plane.
Right. And the only training for the new generation of the 737 MAX was in the form of an iPad training.
Not a flight simulator or anything, just iPad.
Listen, I've got a lot of friends that are pilots. They're fantastic. Southwest, all of them, they're great. But when you're learning even an updated version of a plane, can you give me more than a fucking iPad? I get more than that at high school now. You know what I mean?
I could get more than that if I downloaded one of those flight simulator games and I had a friggin' joystick.
Right? So Boeing wanted to have a meeting. They decided they wanted to have a meeting with Allied Pilots Association. And they wanted to brief them about what was going on, And Allied Pilots Association was like, well, this is great. We can sit down with them. We can talk with them. They'll bring a bunch of shit. We'll be able to look at it. It'll be good.
In brief.
What they didn't bring anything with them. They brought nothing. What they did bring was a lobbyist. They brought a lobbyist to a safety meeting.
Fuck them.
And in the documentary, they interviewed one of the people who was on part of the Allied Pilots Association, and he was like, "You never bring a lobbyist to it. That's not a good look."
No, it's not. Yeah. What is this,
He
the
said-
NRA?
The fuck you say?
Exactly.
You know, he's basically, this guy said all they brought was worried looks on their faces and a lobbyist.
This is a different NBA, National Boeing Association.
Jesus Christ. So they promised an MCAS software fix in 6 weeks, which never has remotely been done in terms of things being done that quickly.
I'm pretty sure it still hasn't come out.
Right? So the association asked, actually, there's something funny about that. We'll get there. The association asked if they should ground the airplane, and Boeing could not conclude that the MCAS was the only reason, so they would not say ground the airplane.
You don't know why? You ground the fucking airplanes.
Yeah, but, money,
Yeah.
right? So now we're going to move to Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302.
But our employees, we gotta pay them. No.
You can't pay those that have crashed. Oh, yeah, that wasn't their pilot, so they don't care, right?
Yeah. That's just a reduction in pay, that's all.
They've
They've been laid off permanently.
laid out.
Yeah.
That was probably in poor taste.
Yeah, it was probably, yeah. But so was Boeing.
Yeah, that's true. So Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 is a Boeing 737 MAX 8 plane. And it was scheduled to fly from Addis Ababa Bole International Airport in Ethiopia to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi, Kenya. Man, I did it to myself today. It's my fault. They took off March 10th, 2019, around 19 weeks after the first crash. So that whole 6 weeks will give you a computer thing fix.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Sure. 6 minutes after takeoff, it crashed near the town of Bishoftu, killing all 157 on the plane.
Fuck.
Yeah. So this is Ethiopian Airlines' most deadly crash to date, and it's also the deadliest crash to occur in Ethiopia.
It's a lot of people.
Yep, and it was less than 5 months after the first crash, like I mentioned. So here's a timeline of the flight and what happened. We kind of gave the flight report for the other one, so I kind of want to give you a play-by-play so everybody can kind of understand just how fast this all happened.
Yeah.
So put yourself in the place of the pilots and think about this. Flight takes off. 1 minute into the flight, the first officer reports a, quote, flight control problem to the control tower. 2 minutes into the flight, the MCAS system activated. Pitched the plane to the ground. Pilot struggled to control. Plane continued to lose altitude. It activated again, dropping the nose even further down. The pilots flipped switches to disable the electrical trim tab system, also disabling the MCAS software. In shutting that off, they also shut off their ability to trim the stabilizer into a neutral position. Because the stabilizer was located opposite to the elevator, strong aerodynamic forces were making manual changes impossible. Pilots inadvertently left the engines on full takeoff power, and that made them accelerate at a high speed, placing more pressure on the stabilizer. So pulling up is even more difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
3 minutes into the flight, only 3 minutes into the flight, the aircraft continues to lose altitude and accelerates faster. The captain instructed first officer to request permission from air traffic control to return to the airport. The permission was granted. Air traffic controllers diverted other approaching flights. They turned aircraft to the east, and it rolled to the right. Right wing came to point down as the turn steepened. This is typically what happens.
Yeah.
8:43, captain asked the first officer to help him keep the plane's nose from going further down by both manually pulling the yoke. They turned the electrical system back on, hoping it would help out. When turning that on, they also turned on the MCAS again, which pushed it further down.
Jesus Christ.
They tried to adjust, but the plane continued to fall. At 8:44, the aircraft disappeared from radar screens. Witnesses said the plane trailed white smoke and made strange noises before crashing. The aircraft hit the ground going 770 miles per hour or 1,100 kilometers per hour.
Very, very fucking fast.
Fucking fast. So here's how they knew it was most assuredly the MCAS for this. They eventually found the jack screw that operates the stabilizer, right, going up and down. It was in the full down position, which told them it was most assured the MCAS that pushed the jack screw up, which pushed the thing down. So that is literally how quickly that happened. And I know I read it fast, and I know it was a lot to digest, but I need everybody to understand that This literally happened 1 minute into a flight where everything just, not literally, figuratively exploded.
Yeah.
Right? And I can hardly handle it if a notification comes my way and we're recording. So, like, having all that shit going off, it's just, like, insane.
Oh, yeah. It'd be horrifying, yeah. And, I mean, you're highly trained, but there's still warning lights going off everywhere, like alarms. The plane literally is trying to crash itself.
Yeah, I don't care how adult or prepared you are. It's sensory overload.
Yeah.
And not everybody is a movie pilot where you can just take a deep breath, focus yourself, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, fuck you, Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Yeah, right. You're human. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And you're a highly trained human, but you're still a human with a machine that is poorly trained.
Right. And exactly. And having said that, though, right, having said all of that, those pilots did exactly what they were asked to do. Exactly what they were asked to do and more, right? And It's still messed up. So we talked about the crash times. Let's talk about the after times. So at that point, Boeing was facing a multitude of safety questions, as you can guess. And there were calls to ground all of the generation of planes. Makes
Absolutely,
sense.
Yep.
After the Lion Air accident, Boeing instructed pilots to take corrective action in case of a malfunction. Boeing continued to avoid revealing the MCAS until pilots dug for more information. In December of 2018, the FAA privately predicted the MCAS could cause 15 crashes over 30 years. And they probably were like, okay.
Yeah.
In April of 2019, Ethiopian preliminary reports stated the crew attempted the recovery procedure, so even doing the right thing, they could not win. Boeing still wouldn't publicly acknowledge that something went wrong. It's utterly insane. For everybody out of the United States, or people who just don't fucking know inside the United States, the FAA is in charge of aviation safety.
Yeah.
They wouldn't pull the trigger in terms of grounding the plane because they were, quote, waiting for data and wouldn't make a decision until then. Well, that's all well and good. China grounded the planes immediately after the crash.
Yeah.
And that created a domino effect of countries. Guess who was the goddamn last country to ground?
United States?
Welcome to the United States.
I'm pretty sure Canada got in there pretty quick, too.
Yeah, I have no doubt. Boeing CEO Dennis Muhlenberg told Donald Trump, who was the president at the time, that the aircraft was safe. But there was new evidence showing the second accident to be similar to the first one. And in a very rare series, which could be called insanity and or a smart move, on March 13th, 2019, the FAA grounded the planes by way of an executive order from Donald Trump. It's literally the only time an executive order has been needed to ground planes. By March 18th, all 387 MAX aircraft were grounded in service with 59 airlines worldwide and making 8,600 flights each week. And this grounding was the longest of any airliner.
Yep.
I do want to say this. I'm remembering a piece that I didn't get to write in here, and the fact is when you ground airplanes, they have to go to, wherever they hold them, right? Which is usually a big old airfield, and you just align them. And they had a hard-ass time finding pilots to actually fly them there.
Yeah, I believe it, because I wouldn't fucking fly them.
No, and it has nothing to... Truly, it's not the pilot, and it's not the actual airline. It's the fact that Boeing lied to them. So, an investigation went into the FAA certification of the MAX, and reviews uncovered other design problems unrelated to the MCAS in the flight computers and cockpit displays. All of these things had design problems. Quote, lawmakers investigated Boeing's incentives to minimize training for the new aircraft. The FAA revoked Boeing's authority to issue airworthiness certificates for individual MAX airplanes and fined Boeing for exerting undue pressure on its designated aircraft inspectors.
Jesus.
Overworked, pressure to pass, etc.
Yeah, as an inspector in structural engineering, no one pressures me. If it's not right, I fucking fail it.
Yep. And he has, y'all. He has. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when the mic comes for you?
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
Hey, buildings don't fall down because I make sure they don't.
And I've never been more happy that you're on the job.
Exactly.
You're like Captain Planet of Foundation. So, during the investigation, they tracked the airspeeds of both flights along with the altitudes. They used the boxes for this. They found that both flights similarly showed altitude loss in 20-second intervals, which I can only believe is horrifying and terrifying or bad or whatever. It's
Yeah,
bad.
exactly.
It seems like up until 2019, the Ethiopian flight black box had not been found. It was announced that it was found at that time, and the data downloaded from the box indicated very nearly the same situation between the two planes. March 9th, 2020, Ethiopian Civil Aviation Authority published an interim report. As of August this year, the final report hasn't been published, but the interim determined the crash was caused by the aircraft's design.
Yeah.
So, the MCAS.
And it probably never will be released fully.
Well, yeah. Now, I will say this. The report for the first one was indeed released in full. I had to boil it down because there was, number one, there was no way I was going to understand that shit.
Yeah.
My brother would, but I wouldn't. And two, nobody wants to hear all that. It gets boring after a while. So,
Yeah, my good friend Chris, his brother would understand because he used to fly for the Canadian military. So he'd understand.
my brother went
Canadian
to a college.
Air Force, sorry.
My brother went to a college. I'm not going to name it, but it was, well, you'll figure it out if you do some research. If you take one more step to another source. But he went to the college and did like the first year of flight school there because he wanted to be a pilot.
Yeah.
And it's the same school where all of the terrorists from 9/11 trained.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus, indeed.
Probably a good school, though. That's why they went there.
It's very true. It is a
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean, I will be the first one to say it is top notch.
That's why they went there, right? They
Exactly.
wanted a good school because they wanted to make sure they got their licenses.
Yep, absolutely. And that's probably why John Travolta's son went too. Who knows?
Yeah, there you go, right?
I don't know. Thank God he was on scholarship because holy
Is that where
shit.
Tom Cruise went?
Jesus. You mean insane? Yeah, sure.
He's also a pilot, though.
I know.
And not just for props, for jets, too.
Oh, he's one big prop.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So here's the final to do. In 2019, March 27th, Boeing unveiled a software update to avoid the MCAS errors. Okay.
Okay.
2019, the first accident happened in 2018, October 29th. So over a year later, even after promising 6 weeks, right?
Yeah.
The software update went through. April 5th, Boeing cut 737 production by almost a fifth to 42 aircraft monthly.
That's a lot of aircraft, actually.
It really gives cause for concern.
Yeah.
Does it not? I would hope for like 4.2 a month.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Do the right... Okay.
But I mean, the millions of kilometers or miles that are flown every year now, you need to build lots of planes, unfortunately.
Oh, it's true. So May 13th, GOP Congressman Sam Graves at the House Aviation Subcommittee hearing blamed the 737 MAX crashes on poor training of the Indonesian and Ethiopian pilots, saying, quote, pilots trained in the U.S. would have been successful. So, fuck you, Sam Graves, and the horse you rode in on.
Yeah.
The horse you fucked in on. All of it. October 30th, CEO Dennis Muhlenberg testified in front of Congress defending Boeing's safety culture, and he denied knowledge of internal messages in which Boeing's former chief technical pilot said he had unknowingly lied to regulators and voiced his concerns on the MCAS.
Yeah.
So they knew about it.
I just found an interesting number here.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly in 2021, 22.2 million flights flew worldwide.
I think there's like, I think there's like a stat of like at any given time there's 10,000 planes in the air.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But that's 22.2 million flights times, what would you say an average, what did you say that Boeing carries? 160 something?
People?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say 160 people. That's like 3,552 million people in the air last year.
3,000. So 3 point something billion?
I guess, yeah.
Jesus
So,
Christ.
yeah, there's a lot of people in the air, so you got to build a lot of planes, unfortunately. But sometimes you cut corners, which is deadly.
Yeah.
Boeing,
Here it is.
looking at you.
Looking at you, bro.
Yeah.
December 17th of 2019. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Pointing to
Giving
my
the
eyes,
old what
pointing to
for.
them, pointing. Yeah.
The old what for. So, December 17th of 2019, Boeing confirmed the suspension of the 737 MAX. January 7th, 2020, Boeing recommends simulator training in addition to computer-based training, aka iPad training. Now they're recommending simulator training. January 9th, they released previous messages that said no flight simulator time was needed. So, they got ahead of their own press release that they knew was coming out 2 days later, right? They said, hey, we actually suggest this, but also we didn't then. September 16th, the U.S. House of Representatives releases its concluding report blaming Boeing and the FAA for lapses in design, construction, and certification. I'm happy that they blame both of them.
Mm-hmm.
2021, January 7th, Boeing settled to pay over $2.5 billion after being charged with fraud over the hiding of information for safety regulators. This, what all was involved in that? You had $243.6 million for criminal monetary penalty, $1.77 billion of damages to airline customers, and $500 million to crash victim beneficiaries fund, which I think those numbers need to be reversed or around. So, but whatever. Anyways, $2.5 billion. What did they rake in last year? In 1 year? Do you remember?
Way more. I forgot.
17.
Yep.
17. What is this?
Slap on the wrist.
It's like just like a little kid that just wants to poke you repeatedly. Like, yeah, it's annoying, but what are you going to do? You're going to hit him? You're going to go to jail.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't until February 1st, 2022 that Ethiopian Airlines cleared the MAX to return to service.
When was it again, sorry?
Ethiopian Airlines cleared the MAX, which was the last airline to have that crash, February 1st this year.
Wow. Because I found Canada let them start going again January 2021.
Yeah. You know, if there was anything that taught Boeing a lesson, it didn't.
It wasn't.
Boeing had increased costs, loss of sale and revenue, loss of reputation, victim litigation, client compensation, decreased credit rating, and lower stock value. Boo-hoo.
Yep. Boo motherfucking who.
Boo-hoo. So, January of 2020, the company had $18.4 billion estimated loss for 2019. Still, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's a rounding error for them.
So, the total loss due to MAX groundings was $20 billion, and indirect costs over $60 billion. Again, a pittance for these people.
Yeah. For the poor.
If you'd like to hear one more thing, Mike, that's going to make you probably jump out of your seat and maybe throw yourself through the window.
Okay.
Okay.
Good thing there's a deck outside my window, so I'm not going to fall very far.
Fair. February 2020. Boeing looked for a $60 billion bailout because of COVID.
Of course they fucking did.
Boeing eventually got $17 billion in funds from the stimulus.
Can I guess that the first thing they did was give their executives bonuses? Because that's what banks did when they got a bailout years ago.
Well, it wasn't their fucking employees because they laid off 10,000 or whatever.
Oh, of course, because the employees don't deserve it, but the executives do.
Yep.
Fucking rich fucks.
Yeah. So,
Fight the fucking power.
That's, Boeing gone. That's my case. It is not an enjoyable one, but, and I know that there was obviously tragedy. It was a ton of people, but although it wasn't enough, they did get their comeuppance, right?
Yeah, for sure.
In some way, shape, or form, they were kind of held accountable. And Dennis Muhlenberg is no longer the CEO, so he's gone.
That's good. I mean, if you're going to buy a plane and you're that rich, first support us because we'd love your support. But if not, support Bombardier from Canada. I mean, I haven't heard of any like crazy big failures on their part.
Literally anything. I mean, again,
they're not as
I do want to go Right. I want to go back to the original point that I had made at the very beginning about Boeing, is that they have literally a century of like trust and safety in their planes. That cannot be pulled away from them.
No.
But if you take the last decade, it is very evident that people need to reevaluate, kind of how they do things, change the process. Maybe make it a little more difficult, even though that might cost a little more money.
Yeah.
But
maybe it's worth spending money.
Yeah, because if you spend a little bit more money and maybe just a smidgen more time, you might have lost some money, but now you've gotten rid of like $60 billion. So
exactly.
Sorry about your luck, or sorry not sorry, I guess is really what this one is. Well, sir, that's my case.
There's some Bombardiers.
Ooh, Bombardier. Do they serve Tanqueray on the Bombardier?
It depends on the airline, I'm sure.
Depends on the day.
Exactly. There's no Air Force One, though, with Bombardier.
Well, there is when Trump's flying it. Okay,
That's what I'm saying. There's no Air Force One.
Oh, my God. Oh, it's so good. Dude, tell them where they can find us and help us Patreon-wise.
Yes, all right. Thanks for tuning in to Brew Crime. You can find us on all social media platforms at Brew Crime. We have a Facebook group at Brew Crime Group. Come there and help support the community and, talk with us, talk with other people, and share news stories from where you are. If you'd like to support the show, head to patreon.com/brewcrime now. Money goes towards upgrading equipment, making the show that much better. You can get one bonus episode a month. And these days we're doing crazy conspiracy shit because it's fun.
Yes.
And you will also get ad-free access to our episodes and our brewery episodes with Paige from Reverie True Crime. Shout out to our Patreon supporters: James, True Crime Nana, 3 Beers In Podcast, Amber, and the Faves of Our Lives Podcast. Cheers.
Peace.
Pieces. All cases in Brew Crime are written by Mike and JT or a writer we credit on the episode, and sources are put into our show notes for each episode. We always want to give credit to the people that research the cases we talk about. Check out our store at tpublic.com/stores/brew-crime-podcast, where you can purchase gear like t-shirts, phone cases, stickers, pillows, and all kinds of other cool stuff. Brew Crime's intro was created by Mike using Creative Commons Attribution licensed audio from purple-planet.com, soundbible.com, and freesoundeffects.com. Logo designed by Ben Greenberg. Thanks for listening to this episode of Brew Crime Podcast.
Court J610. Nope, there's no J there. Just Lion Air Flight J. Nope, no J again. It wasn't until November 1st that the plane... Jesus. It wasn't until November... Oh, my God. My mouth can't even say my birth month. Ha. And then they went after the pirates? No. Good grief. Ha.
We want to land at this airport.
Yarr. We don't know where we're Boeing. I'm
going to be flying over with my Bombardier.
Jesus, we both need to walk the shank.
Oh my!
So, put them at an accelerator. That April, that's when COVID exploded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, no. That was 2020. I'm crazy.
2020, yeah.
Yeah, so anyways.
That was a decade ago.
That's what it feels like. I feel
exactly.
like I've aged 15 years. So